Today on the show, we got comic book creator Wells Thompson. And no, he's no relation to my co-host Specks Thompson, but he is the creator of Frankenstein Down Conquered, Cat Skin and the Rose, and his Kickstarter project he got right now, Mechatron, which is his love letter to all the stuff we used to watch back with Toonami. He wrote a graphic novel about it, and today we talk about his first full volume of that and other things in his life. So Specks, let's run it. Shout out to our guest, Wells Thompson. Let's go.
Thanks, View, for that intro for our guest today, Wells Thompson. We share the same last name, so I think we're cousins somewhere along the line. But besides that, thanks for coming on, Wells.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
For people who don't know who you are, give them a little brief introduction what you do.
Sure. My name is Wells Thompson. I'm a writer, mostly for comic books. I also do a little bit of prose here and there, and I'm an editor as well, but mostly known for my series Mechatron, which is science fiction, all ages, mostly coming out through Kickstarter. Frankenstein the Unconquered, which is the exact opposite, action horror. And the in-production Cat Skin and the Rose, which is a fantasy romance novel I'm working on. Or a graphic novel that we're working on. So yeah, I write stories in pretty much every genre I can.
Okay, that's dope. Mm-hmm. Well, this is Chill in the Green Box. I'm not really aware where you from, but like back in the day, did y'all have the green electrical boxes in front of neighborhoods?
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Sure.
Yeah, so just like that, back in the day, I'm pretty sure y'all hung around it maybe, or your parents probably say don't touch it, but
yeah. I know what you mean.
Yeah, so this is just like that, man. We just gonna chill and talk and just have a good time.
For sure, let's do it.
Because I did a lot of podcasts, and artists, creators, and whoever get on a podcast and just ramp 2 hours about the Kickstarter, but nobody ever knows them or anything about them, what to support. So I developed my podcast so people find out about the creator and give them a reason to support them on their projects and future installments they have. So
absolutely.
I got 4 different segments of this show. My first segment is called Breaking It Down. Because when you chill in that green box, you break concepts, ideas down with your friends and whatnot. So I can use some icebreaker questions to break your brain down. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
All right. I normally have them lined up to go, but I forgot where I put them. So I'm just going to go right for the dome with them. In school, what was your favorite subject?
English. Yeah. I don't think it started out that way, but eventually, ninth grade, I read Of Mice and Men, and I was like, I get, before then it was just like, they're making us read books, it's stupid, there's no point to any of this, and then I read Of Mice and Men, and it just, resonated with me, and I was like, oh, this is what stories are for. This is they can kind of tell us something about ourselves that we maybe didn't realize ahead of time. And it just grew from there. Always loved writing and novels, and wound up going to school for that as well, going to college for that too.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it's definitely English. Usually contemporary American. As Scott Fitzgerald, Ernest Hemingway, Kurt Vonnegut, stuff like that.
Okay. My next question. What was one meal growing up that you hated looking forward to?
That I hated that I looked forward to?
Yeah, so you knew it was your parents were going to make it. You were like, oh man, not liver and onions again, like something like that.
Yeah, my mom ruined spaghetti for me.
Oh man,
terrible. She did not know. She burned every piece of toast that she ever put in the toaster, and something about her, I don't know if it was the spaghetti sauce, if she overcooked the noodles. I can't eat spaghetti to this day. It's gross.
Even from a restaurant?
Yeah.
God,
yeah,
man.
Something about it. It's just ruined it for me.
Dang. I never heard that one. Spaghetti, ruined spaghetti.
Yeah, it's hard to do. I don't understand it either, but here we are.
Last question. with one weapon at your disposal during the zombie apocalypse, what weapon would you spawn out to help you?
Oh, I'm probably best. I'm probably best with a bow. But ammo is a concern.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's a hard call. I mean, in an ideal world, you'd have like a spear because those are easy to make. If it breaks, you just put a pointy thing at the end of a stick. Like there's a reason that every culture in the world has a version of a spear.
Well, the same thing with arrows too.
Well, sure, yeah. If you can get good at making arrows, shouldn't be too much of a problem. But yeah, a couple years ago, my wife hurt her back, and we needed to find something to stretch it out. And it turned out archery was the best thing for that. So we both got really into it.
Oh yeah, cause you span your. Oh
Yeah,
okay.
you use your back muscles, and yeah, it's a good workout. About 30 minutes of that, you get sore, you get tired real fast.
Yeah. I used to do it at I was in middle school, high school. I went to some summer camp, and like
Mm.
2 years or 3 years in a row, I went there and we did archery. So that. But yeah, I felt it then. Like it depends on how much string that string is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you got the regular bows and the compound bows and all kinds of stuff like that.
Yeah,
So,
we have a regular recurve bow, and I forget the exact like the weight on it. We both pull it back pretty well. It's definitely more for my strength range than it is her. So occasionally she'll sometimes use it, and sometimes she rents out a lighter bow if she wants to go longer. But it's like I said, it's good to stretch out your back. Good to get to those muscles that you don't normally get to at the gym.
yeah. And you talking about ammo? Somehow Daryl from Walking Dead, always have a bow in there already. So
Yeah, he's got his crossbow, and it's like, where are you getting all these bolts, man? Like you can get it back, and that's good for a couple times. But if you're going through skin, it's gonna break eventually.
Yeah, skull. Like.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's all the question I got for that.
Sure.
Hopefully people got a good feel who you are. On to my next segment. It's called the back issues. Being in comics, of course, you know what back issues are, or the other kind, with your wife. But people who don't know, it's like you want to know about a character origin story. And going with the theme, the last question, you want to learn about Hawkeye's origin story. You go back to his back issues to find out more. So what you finna do? We're finna learn more about your origin story and go to your back issues.
Sure.
All right. Where are you from, and what do you call your hood?
So I'm from Little Rock, Arkansas. Grew up on a street called Beverly Hills, corner of Beverly Hills and Malibu. And it was a dinky little cul-de-sac. Just poor as hell kind of neighborhood, kind of ironically named. And yeah, like right within view of the freeway. I hadn't been back. We moved out of that house. Now my dad lives in a place called Hillcrest. That's actually pretty nice. And I actually went down there just last weekend for a funeral, but still got to visit home. That was real nice to see my brothers. That Little Rock is a weird place. It's very quiet, but has all of the kind of building blocks of what could be a cool city.
Little Rock, I didn't think Little Rock was that quiet. I thought it was pretty close to being like Chicago.
In what way? Like, I live in Chicago now, and I can tell you, nah, completely different.
Wow, see, I thought it was pretty rough out in Little Rock.
Oh, there's violence in every city. I don't know. I
thought it was like really rough though.
I think St. Louis takes the cake on both of them, but St. Louis and New Orleans and like a bunch of other southern cities are, I think, more more dangerous. But it's like every city. It has rough areas and it has its good areas, and it's on you to kind of figure out which is which.
Huh. That's funny. I always thought it was like pretty rough out there. I guess it's like only the bad news get through, probably.
Oh yeah, it's just all news is bad news.
Yeah.
I mean, just like, a lot like Chicago. People think I thought this. Like, when I moved to Chicago, I was a little bit nervous because everything I've ever heard about Chicago is you're going to get murder stabbed. And, like, you know, I've seen some nutty people on the subway, but I've never felt like I was in danger.
Mm-hmm.
It's all what kind of town, what part of town you're in, and if you know how to carry yourself and make sure you're not, if you're walking around with a sign that says "I'm gullible, mug me," then like, yeah,
Yeah,
you're probably in danger anywhere you go.
yeah. I've been in Chicago as well, and when I was walking around, I was like, I don't see the murder, kill people talking about, but like,
yeah, this is nice.
yeah, and like I can see where you can like venture off and you get in some stuff if you want to, but if you like do what you're supposed to do, you seem like you avoid it,
Exactly.
Yep. Are you a music lover?
Yeah. I actually I have two guitars in this room. One of them doesn't have strings right now, but and a saxophone behind the couch. I love playing music. I love listening to music.
What got you into music? What artist or genre got you into music?
I think it was like what got me into music initially was probably like the like hard rock new metal wave of the 2000s, which is like a bad answer because that's the most disposable music in the world. But like that's what sort of got me interested. Nowadays, I play a lot more like folk and filk, and listen to a lot more because that's just interesting for me to play. I like the song structure of them, and I listen to a lot more like alternative rock and like light electronica stuff.
Okay.
But so yeah, I like music from all over. It's the sort of different tastes are fascinating, and there's all sorts of different ways to express yourself in music and to hear and to like vibe with music. So there's a place for everything. I think I'll bust out Tyler the Creator every now and then. I don't mind.
Now you said the rock of 2000s. I'm pretty sure they didn't have a saxophone, with them. So what got you into playing saxophone?
No, I had a choice. I could either do theater, choir, or band. And I was like, I'll do band, I guess. Like, I don't want to do any of that. And they, I didn't really know any of the instruments, but saxophone sounded cool, so I signed up for it and got really good. Actually, I almost went to school for music, but decided against it. Decided I wanted to go into writing instead.
And the crazy part that I wanted, like, I think the movie Drumline came out right before I went to middle school.
Yeah, I remember Drumline. That was a weird movie.
And I want to play saxophone. Well, I want to play the drumline, of course, because of the movie, but saxophone as well. And I couldn't get the reed to make the noise, and I was so upset. So I ended up becoming a brass player. So I played the trumpet, the trombone, baritone, tuba. I could play all them. But later on in life, I figured out how to make the sound for that saxophone. But it was already too late. I was already disinterested in band. But I was so heartbroken. I was like, I can't make a sound.
Oh, there are days I'm jealous of like trumpet and trombone players. Like I love the sound that they can make. I love that you can play it. You can play that thing anywhere. It's pretty easy to put together and maintain. Like the maintenance on a saxophone is nutty. But yeah, no, I love the instrument.
Yeah, and pretty sure y'all have it there, but here they have people that play saxophone on the street for money. And this is one guy. He has a.
I've done that before.
This one guy has a soprano saxophone, and he tries to play by ear, I guess. But every time I walk by him, he plays the same song. It is always the keys messed up, and it's like you switch from one song to the next. Like nobody's gonna give you money, man. We hear what you're doing. You're not playing anything. You're just making noise on the. Like on the saxophone, like come on, man.
We found a guy on the subway who plays like he he plays trumpet to like the backing tracks. So he'll play like a Michael Jackson song and then like improv on top of it. But he only knows a couple of licks. And, like one of them is like circus music. It's so weird. It's surreal being down there and just like Thriller's playing and on top of it you got
Yeah, I just don't understand. Like you there for at least 4 hours. You might as well change it up, but learn something new. But day in and day out, same thing.
Oh god.
Yeah, but comic books. What got you into comic books? Like, what TV show or book got you into it?
So it's kind of a weird circuitous path that I took, because I wanted to write, and I kind of saw myself doing novels, and then eventually I started doing screenplays as well because I love movies and TV. I met my writing partner Dalton on a bunch of my work. We've collaborated together. He writes Mechatron with me. He writes Frankenstein the Unconquered with me. We did a horror anthology together called Descent into Dread. And he was the one who got me into comics, as a way to actually write and tell stories. And then I started reading more and really getting into it. As a kid, I was familiar with the obvious stuff. I love Static Shock. I love JLU, Batman Beyond. The stuff that came on when we were kids. And yeah, I just kind of took, my love of that and sort of applied it to my writing now. And that's how we wound up making Mechatron, which is very much like a love letter to that kind of like Midnight Run, Toonami, style media. And then there's little influences as well, like Scott Pilgrim. I saw the movie when I was I think my senior year of high school. That movie came out, and fell in love with it. And then read the graphic novels and absolutely fell in love with them. Read Watchmen sometime when I was in high school. That had a big impact on me. I thought that was an incredible story, even before I knew anything about. So
is it pretty good? Because I didn't like the movie.
Oh yeah, no, it's way better. Like the book is way better than the movie.
Okay.
It's similarly. There are things that are like ripped directly out of the comic, but the comic just works better. Partially as an adaptational change, and partially because Zack Snyder as a director didn't necessarily have the freedom to stick to the message of the book as much as he might have liked. Or maybe he just didn't understand the message of the book. I don't want to be like mean about about his creative vision or whatever, but the message of the book is very like psychological and what is it that makes these heroes dysfunctional? And part of that is sort of questioning the violence that they do and making them seem not sexy as heroes. And by virtue of being an action movie, that film has a lot of contrast where it's like, yeah, there's moments where it comes into focus, but also look at all this badass violence they're doing, and it just meshes. That just doesn't work.
Okay. So, with the comic book thing, like, so I see a lot of writers, they say they do screenplays and they go from doing screenplays to comics. What's the transition? Why is that happening so much?
I mean, I can't speak to everyone else's experience, but for me, it was there's like doing screenplays. There's obviously a lot of money in making film, but that makes it kind of harder to break into because there's a lot of money in it. Costs thousands and millions of dollars potentially to make a film. And it costs a lot of money to make a comic, but not nearly as much. Also, there's a million people involved with making a film. As a writer, you are the starting point, and then it just evaporates. You lose control after that. And there's 1,000 people: the director, the cinematographer, the actors. So many people have a say in telling the story that it sort of loses what you put into it a lot of the time. And if you want to be more hands-on and kind of like be the one to making the movies, it is just a, a massive headache of getting everyone together and trying to like it's a logistical nightmare. Comics are still collaborative. There's still other people involved. You have an artist, colorist, letterer, editor that you're working with, but it's still a small kind of intimate group of people that you're working with, and you as the writers get a lot more say in kind of the direction that it ends up in. So that was sort of what appealed to me about it. I still love screenplays. I'm not proud. I would definitely write a screenplay knowing that like it's going to change in a million different ways. It's going to be different at the end. That's just the creative process. I don't mind that so much, but comics were more readily accessible to me, and I would rather make 10 great comics than hold on to a single screenplay and try and bash through all the red tape and all the, agents and moneyed interests and stuff to maybe eventually get that made into a movie.
Okay. Last question. When did you find out that you was a nerd?
Early. I've always known that. Yeah, I've never been, for the periphery, like I've never been super popular. Never had like a bunch of friends, but I've also just had a bunch of nerdy interests since I was a little kid. All the normal stuff, anime, cartoons, from an early age, probably like simple shit like Lego too. But, just like in video games, nerdy interests that like don't necessarily make me unique, but like I wasn't like that combined with the fact that I wasn't like the most popular kid. I was just like, yeah, I don't have a problem being I know I'm a nerd. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, understandable. Well, that's the end of that segment. On to my next segment. It's called the hotkeys. Being in comics is another comic term as well as a music term. So in comics, it'd be key issues. When a new character get on board, new writer, new artist, storyline nowadays, become popular. You want to get that and grab it and hold on to it. As well in music, it's buttons on a turntable or buttons on a keyboard that producer or DJ will press to turn the party up, get everybody live, excited and whatnot. So this part of the show is just it. It's things that, I formulated by listening to you doing this episode and stuff prior to. And you want people to highlight and know about you and what you do. So we can dive straight in that.
Let's do it.
And I want to go into your, you went to college for writing. Now, talking to you more, I see that you said screenplay. So were you in college for English or writing, or what you actually go to college for?
So I majored in English language and composition, which is to say, books and novels and like the history of the English language. But I what I wanted to do with that always was be a writer. I minored in creative writing, and I was more or less just, I wanted to study storytelling as a craft more than anything. So yeah, I always had an eye toward that. My capstone was critical theory, or where we talked about everything from like early structuralist theory to postmodernism to like modern feminist gender and race theory and et cetera, et cetera. All the different ways that you can kind of break down and look at a story and make it work and fit and what that does for culture and as a how that interacts with us in practical ways. But yeah, I did that from the angle of like, I want to write stories. I want to be the one telling the stories.
So how was it? So going to college for that, learning how to write in that format. How hard was it to translate it to comic books?
Not at all. I mean, I still had a lot of learning to do after college for sure. Um, and I did a lot of independent study, and obviously the best way to learn is through just doing the thing. So I did a lot of, writing and working through and developing my style and getting better. Um, but yeah, no, that very much my style of how I tell stories informed how I write comics and how I approach my collaborator, or how I approach collaborators, and sort of what I bring to the table in terms of making the book as good as it can be. So it was a natural fit for sure.
Okay, okay. Because I know some people, they say like it was hard transition because it's a different style of writing and
Not at
whatnot.
all. So the biggest hurdle is that you have different kinds of tools available to you for every style of writing. Uh, for prose, for novels, you're everything. You're the description, you're the characters, you're the dialogue, you're the narration, and so you need to be very particular about your language, because language is what you're using to kind of bring everything together. With scripts of all kinds, the language takes a back seat. The dialogue is still there, but everything else is just stage direction. Is just telling is bare bones, telling your director and your cinematographer and your actors and etc. what needs to happen, what it needs to look like. So I think the biggest hurdle people have is just taking a step back in terms of ego and saying, I'm not the most important thing here at this stage. The most important thing that you bring to a script is structure. And obvious structure and dialogue and characters, obviously, but that's the thing that outlasts everything else. People will see the art and that's what they'll absorb. They're not going to absorb the words that you put on the page, but the structure that you give the artist for how to tell the story, that leaves an impression. The biggest transition point I would say between doing screenplays and doing and short films and stuff and doing comics is you don't have motion and you don't have sound. So once you figure out that you need to be aware of that, it's a pretty natural transition. And then you get to play with things that you don't have in film, like a page. It's a weird thing to think about, but the act of having a page and what goes on it, and then the natural break in reading from turning a page, you can do a lot with that to tell your story.
Okay, yeah, I do that like my comic. Just I guess learning how to write comic books. They also on the page turn reveal. So even my first issue, and I did it. So when you turn the page, you reveal something. I don't know if I read somewhere you have to do that every time because you the reader is disengaged every time they turn the page, so you literally got to re-engage them every time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
there's that. There's page reveals. There's just the simple act of what's different. By the time I get from the top to the bottom of the page, what's different, and when I go to the next page, how much have I skipped over between that last panel on the bottom page and the first panel on the top? There's all sorts of interesting questions that are just invisible to the reader and behind the scenes, but getting that right and thinking about that is so integral to making the reading experience pleasant and addictive and satisfying.
Yeah. Yep. You said you was an editor. What got you to decide to be an editor for these projects?
So editing kind of came naturally as a result of doing a lot of writing and talking with my peers about their projects. The more I got to see kind of first looks behind the scenes of scripts and having people come up to me and be like, hey, I'm running into this problem. What do you think? The more confident I got that I'm, editing is something I'm pretty good at in terms of just helping people see the bigger picture, making work more cohesive, making people think about things that they haven't necessarily thought about before to make the work stronger. So it just kind of became, a natural part of it's already a natural part of how I tell my own stories, but it's something I realized that I could bring to other people to make their comics better. Because at the end of the day, I want to make, not just my own ideas better, but as many other people as I can collaborate with. I want to tell a bunch of stories, not just the narrow ones that I have in my head.
What's the most difficult ones you worked on at editing wise?
I mean, I'm editing a series of novelettes right now, of prose works, and that is something that I haven't attempted before to not just edit but edit prose, and that has been like challenging, not because it's like it's good writing, it's just different muscles to flex and a different frame of mind I have to look at it with. But yeah, I've handled everything from like I want to make a comic and don't know how, and here are my ideas, kind of help me figure it out, to this is a completed script with and it's ready to go to print. I just want to make sure everything is cleaned up first, and every one of them kind of has a different challenge associated with it. So all of them are challenging, but all of them are really fun and rewarding.
And novellas, you say you create those as well, right?
I have a bunch of short stories and a novel in the bag. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I haven't been able to find a place to publish them yet, but but yeah, that is something, for a long time that's what I wanted to do, is be a novelist. And so I've done a lot of work writing those, but that doesn't mean that I've necessarily gotten to the point where they're out in the wild yet.
Okay. So talk about one thing I want to talk about before I talk about your Kickstarter project. It was something in your bio. Let me see. You got a lot of tears, so I got to draw it down. So comics, cats, and cocktails. What is that?
Comics, Cats, and Cocktails is my newsletter on Substack. And it is easily the best way to kind of keep up with me and what I'm doing, as well as my writing partner, Dalton, because Twitter is unreliable at best. This way, you're always getting a direct email from us, and we cover, the stuff that we're working on right now, the stuff that we're reading right now, what conventions we're going to, in case you're in the area, cocktail recipes, because I've been a waiter for 10 years and a bartender, and I know a bunch of them, and pictures of my cats, because I have 5 of them personally, and also we rescue and rehabilitate cats in our house. So there's always loose, cute pictures of cats, and if there's anything I know about the internet, is that the internet loves cats. So stop by.
I'm thinking about doing Substack or going to Substack. But what made you go on there, or how did you find it?
Well, we doing Kickstarter, we realized we wanted a more direct way to keep in contact with our audience than just trying to message them either through Kickstarter or reach them through social media. That's again always unreliable. You're depending on an algorithm. So we started a newsletter just to create that kind of more direct contact, and we sort of trialed and errored what we wanted to be in the newsletter as we went along. Substack specifically is something that we came across. We were using MailChimp. We decided to try out Substack, and I like it a lot. It works really well for what we needed to do. It's very user friendly.
Why choose that versus like a Patreon?
Patreon, you're asking people to just fork over money naturally, and we wanted as low a barrier to entry as possible. Maybe one day we'll make a Patreon, but for right now, the Substack works just fine for us in terms of just keeping in contact with people and letting them know what we're doing and what's what current Kickstarter is live if we have one, or if not, what kind of new stuff we're getting in.
Do you follow any pros on Substack, or do you follow anybody else on Substack?
I have some friends in the game that I keep a close eye on. Kat Calamy and Phil Falco have a really interesting newsletter. I believe Two Geeks Talking with Cody. He has he has one that features a lot of really talented creators. A Matter of Fiction by Brittany Matter is really, really good. Always super informative and interesting. Teeny Howard has a good one. There's a bunch that we follow and look at.
Okay. So like I said, I'm interested in doing it, but I don't know. I always thought it was like a superficial type thing. Like, you gonna follow Brian Michael business and subscribe to his thing and get his class, and but I didn't think it was like a lower barrier as you say it is. So I'll check it out.
No, it's a way that people can keep in contact with you that's more reliable than, because if you follow someone on Twitter, maybe you see their tweets.
Yeah.
Maybe you never do. There's no way of really filtering that. And like, you can go directly to their page and see what they've been doing, but if that depends on you remembering to do it, and then you realize that, they've been running a campaign and it's already closed and I really wanted to be a part of it, which without fail, every single time that I run a Kickstarter campaign, I get emails in the aftermath saying, hey, is there any way that I can, pick up a copy? I didn't realize that this was running and now it's already over. So yeah, avoid that happening. Get in contact with us directly.
Okay. So speaking of Kickstarter campaign, here's yours up here, right here. So while I got it up, explain to the people, what is it?
So this is the first completed volume of Mechatron. It's for the first 5 issues bundled together, 108 pages of story. And Mechatron is a science fiction, all ages kind of action comedy about a glove that turns anything it punches into a mech. The brother and sister that get their hands on it, the single brain cell that they share, and the massive kaiju that starts wrecking up their town that they have to stop. It's a lot of fun. It has a lot of kind of Saturday morning cartoon vibes. Again, if you grew up with Toonami, you're gonna love this. It's very like Scott Pilgrim meets Pacific Rim. It's a ton of fun.
What made you do an all age book?
We didn't go into this with thinking all ages in mind, and I think all ages has a connotation of like it's for kids, but really it is just like we wanted to make it for the kid in your heart, so to speak. If you're 50 years old and you have a sense of humor, you'll probably love this book. But it also happens to work for middle grade, high school age people that absolutely love it. I have a couple friends that are teachers that bring it into their classroom, and their kids adore it, trace over the characters to try and figure out how to draw like Fernando, absolutely just eat up the book. So it wasn't necessarily a conscious choice of we want to make this an all ages book. It was just that was the style that we felt fit the story better.
Okay. What made you choose his art style?
So Fernando Pinto is the artist, and we knew we wanted something a little cartoony. Not we didn't want like a heavy, handed like realist style. We went with Fernando because he has a really kinetic kind of sensibility and has a lot of fun like doing the transforming stuff and making really absurd looking like mechs and robots and stuff. That was something we had seen in his other work, and we knew that would fit really, really well for Mechatron. So the style just kind of happened. again, we're very inspired by like Toonami cartoons, Midnight Run, and uh, as well as like anime like Gurren Lagann and stuff like that. So we knew we wanted that sort of very stylized aspect to it.
It gives me the vibes. I'm trying to think of the show. I don't know if it's the show with the guy. He has the car that goes on top of the robot,
Oh, I
or
think Megas XLR, is that the one?
yeah.
Yeah, that was I. I forgot that show existed. And someone brought it up in a podcast, and I was like, "Holy crap! Yeah, it is kind of like that."
Yeah.
Obviously, like it has its own spin on it. It's very different, but it definitely there's a lot of like there's a lot of Ben 10, there's a lot of Megas XLR, there's a lot. I mean, there's a little bit of everything in there.
Yeah, it's one
kind of maintaining its own identity.
It sounds like you're like the same age as me, but it's one that I missed out on. It's called Generator Rex, I believe.
I don't think I saw that one.
Yeah, so I think it's in the same world or frame as that one with the car.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's a guy. His arm turns to a whole like robot or something. Like it's if you film it like kind of like Fully Cooley, I guess. But like
I love Fully Cooley. I definitely saw that way too young.
Definitely like that, but like I guess for the younger kids, before Toonami. But people rave about that as well. I still haven't watched it or whatever, but I guess the kids who young enough to watch the one with the car, Megas XLR, they still catch that one. They say it's in maybe the same universe. It may have a crossover with something on Cartoon Network as well, but I just can't remember.
Maybe so.
Now, who are your characters in this comic?
So Derek is the protagonist, is the lead. He's the one who gets the glove stuck on his hand. He is, good dude, wants to do the right thing, no ambition. Left to his own devices, will play video games in the basement all day. And then his sister Leah finds this thing. It comes out of the sky, crashes into the scrapyard, and she picks it up and she puts it on him because she's not going to wear it. She's smarter than that. And it attaches itself to his hand. It won't come off. And they discover that, if they punch something, it turns into a mech. Around the same time, a giant irradiated cockroach starts destroying the town, and they've got to put a stop to it. We've also got Hex. Hex is Leah's partner. They are a non-binary witch that belongs in a different genre, and they are one of my favorite characters I've ever written. Just super deadpan, sort of bring the voice of normalcy to the series. But since the series is so off the wall, they themselves kind of become a comedy character in that regard. And then Mr. Moore is sort of the main antagonist of this first arc. He's the middle manager of a pizza franchise. He's Derek's boss, fires him, and then realizes that, this robot thing could bring in some money. So uses him like a billboard to sell pizza that winds up getting people sick.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's very much about like Derek learning how to not get taken advantage of and take care of people without not losing that sense of compassion, but just learning how to be a little bit more discerning about who he lets influence him.
Okay. And hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh no, I heard myself. So so make sure I heard you correctly. Everything they punch turned to a mech.
Yes. So that first mech that you see is this Frank Mitchell's Mr. Mitchell. He has a hot dog stand. It gets destroyed by this giant cockroach, and Derek, in frustration, punches it, and then it turns into a mech. with a umbrella shield and a condiment cannon and like its own special kind of unique weaponry. And there's anything that it punches while he's wearing it, will turn into essentially power armor that he controls.
Oh, okay, I get it now. So the kaiju comes, whatever, he can punch my laptop, boom, and he has a laptop armor on himself.
Sure. He can.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, it's got that like Full Metal Alchemist thing where you only work with as much material as you get.
Okay.
But yeah, no, that's sort of the idea is everyday objects becoming robots.
Okay, I thought it was one of those like one of the curse type things. Like if he cursed something, they turn to a mech, and he has to stop it because he punched it. You know, one of them things.
No, that would have been an interesting angle, but no, it becomes power armor on him that he can use to fight stuff.
Okay, so I mean, you said 4 issues right now, or 5 issues,
or 5 issues, 108 pages.
So how many variations have you had so far in that book, in that volume?
I think 7. I think there's been 7 mechs. There might have, maybe I'm miscounting, but it's been we've had a couple joke of like just visual gags of mechs, and we've had a couple that are really badass. So you get a little bit of everything from it.
Okay. You plan on doing a stopping point with this book, or just keep?
Yeah, we have kind of a roadmap for the series, and if it gets really popular and people love it, and we want to we want to make more, I think there's definitely a version of the series that's sort of monster of the week. We can have a new mech every time, but that's not necessarily the direction we wanted to go with it at first. So there's definitely a roadmap, and we will hopefully be able to. It's 3 arcs that we have planned out, so we'll hopefully be able to tell the whole story.
What made you think about this concept? What made you want to write this book?
It was kind of one of those ideas that it was Dalton's original idea, but we came up with it as a result of just like you're 16 years old, it's 3 a.m, you're drinking way too much Monster Energy, and you're just talking about like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if whatever happened, and it was just an idea that stuck around. Someone said, wouldn't it be cool if anything you punched turned into a mech, and that was like your power armor? And years and years after the fact, we were like, that's a really good idea. That's a lot of fun. So we took a couple cracks at it, and it wasn't until we started working together that I kind of dug into it and realized how much potential there was for great characters and super memorable moments. And we sort of built it up from first principles and made it into what it is now. So it's been an idea that's been kind of in the oven for a long time, but yeah, I think it's just a ton of fun and will be really memorable, especially once we get to tell the whole thing.
It looks good. You got a little good aesthetic to it, down with the story. It adds on to that. So yeah, it looks pretty good. And you say you got into school? So how's the kids reacting to it?
Oh, kids love it. Whenever we go to conventions, there's always like a little kid that hears the pitch and his eyes light up, and he buys the whole set, and that's like that makes it all worth it. All the work that we've done, all the sweat that we put into this. But yeah, I have a friend who's a middle school teacher who essentially used it to. She gave it to a kid because he had some anger issues. He was being a brat, and she was just like, focus on something. Here you go. And then started, tracing the characters and trying to get the style down because he wanted to draw like Fernando. He became fell in love with the story, and that became a big motivator. We had 3 issues out at that point. We were like, we've got to get the next 2 like out the door because this kid needs to read the rest. Needs to read what happens next.
Yeah, I have to make an all ages book myself. I actually started I had some concepts that I was trying to angle out in my universe. Like a couple days ago, I thought it was a great concept, for kids, would love, because my book, I I don't say, it's for kids, adults, or whatever. I just wrote it. It's not that gory. I just had the same mind frame if they watch Naruto or anything on Disney Plus or something like that, or Toonami, or early Toonami, back in the day Toonami. Well, I guess it'd be it's not JetX. What is it? Disney XD. If they watch that, they'll be okay with my book.
Sure.
But some parents they pull back from it because they say, "Oh, it got demons in it." I really don't have demons, but they look like demons. But like,
sure,
they're not demons. Like they look like it. But I haven't specifically said what they are. But
I mean, yeah, they're gnarly.
but
there's so much crap from our childhood that you look back on and you're like, how did this was not okay.
Yeah. So like,
I think kids are more valuable.
I need something because I want everybody to buy it, but I don't want the kid to get it. And be like, oh my god, this, that, and third, happened in the book. So I like, well, just stop that. I can probably judge a kid or judge the parent beforehand and be like, well, I see the kid is like 8 years old, so they may be interested in this title instead. But that only happened like twice so far with my book. Like one of my he don't work with me no more. One of my coworkers, I told him about the book and whatnot, and he said his son is artistic, but he's like what his thing is superheroes and whatnot. So he got a book from me, and his wife caught it. Why you put this in my house and all the demons? He was like, it's not demons, but it looked like demons. Not gonna let it in my house. Like, man, that's crazy because I don't say things, but I guess just the aesthetic of how they look. She was not with it at all. But so I'm like, man, what can I do to switch it out? So he's just been my go-to guy with ideas because I know if his wife's not going for it, that's the top tier. Like, so if I gotta dumb it down and she approve it, okay, that's the level like right there. I'm good at. But
sure.
With the kids, I definitely want that because I had some teachers, some people who are teachers or work with kids. They look for books that help kids read, or because hand the kid a chapter book, that might be too much for them or they can't focus on. But the comic, you got brief little segments of words and whatnot.
I think there's a big push right now happening in, in all areas of literature, but especially younger, pushing where it's sort of the understanding that reading is reading. It doesn't matter really where it comes from. And comics do tend to kind of grab kids more, comics and manga, just because of, it's a little bit less intensive, but they can still follow the story. They're still reading. So it's better for them to be reading comics than it is to be, not like doodling and not reading. I definitely think there's a renewed interest in that kind of, in not entry level, but like middle grade and I'm forgetting the word for it, but like children's literature essentially.
Yeah, young adult.
Well, young adult is like high school age, but yeah.
Okay. And one thing I didn't realize, but another creator told me that I forgot what he said he had. He had some kind of reading problem, but he said comics. You're reading like Fantastic Four or Superman or even Batman. They use bigger words. So as a kid, reading chapter book, you get messed up in the bigger words and try not to read them or whatever. But you see in a comic, you be like, oh, what's this word is? You go ask your mom or dad or look up a dictionary. Now you learning bigger words that you wouldn't normally read or have any kind of interaction with. So I thought about it too. I was like, man, I ain't think about that.
It's a little more accessible. It's a little more forgiving. If you're looking at a whole wall of text, you don't want to bring out a dictionary just to figure out. It's just like, I got so much more to go through. Am I going to bring it out every time I see a word I don't recognize? Like, I totally get that. A lot of people are going to do that. So.
I took that because it's not a big word, but it's a word people just don't say randomly. Was indifferent. I remember the book it came from was the aliens fried my brains
Mm-hmm.
series. One of the little aliens always said, "Oh, I feel indifferent about it." I'm like, "What is that word? What is that word?" Find out what a word means, and I can use it when I write now. And I remember using it in a couple of papers in school as well. But talking to somebody's not gonna say, I feel very indifferent about that. You're not gonna hear nobody say that. So I definitely understand where that creator was coming from when he told me that, because I would never heard that word, in a regular conversation.
Yeah.
But your other titles, you got a horror story and another one as well, correct?
So we've got we have one horror anthology that we did all ourselves. That was Descent into Dread, through that is out through Caliber Comics, and you can buy it directly through us or through a Kickstarter as well. We have From the Static. That one I have a story in. It's from Band of Bards. We also have Frankenstein the Unconquered, which is our kind of mainline horror series, ongoing horror series. And that's about Frankenstein's monster having thawed from the ice after the end of the original novel into a future that is post-apocalyptic and burned out and ugly and looks a lot like he does. So he tries to fit in, and he finds that even in ideal circumstances, he still has that conflict in him. And he sort of goes on the warpath. It's very like Conan the Barbarian with Universal Horror Monsters, who we sort of if Mechatron was our love letter to Toonami, this is our love letter to Universal Horror, to old school horror films and creature features and just like horror staples, stuff that we love.
All right. Did you name your Frankenstein monster?
He does have a name. We haven't given it up in the in the book yet, but he does have a name.
All right, because it's like, I guess, not knowing growing up, I always assume that he's Frankenstein.
Yeah. So and here's my stance on that: is the monster views Victor, Dr. Frankenstein, as his father, so he would take that's his name too. His last name's also Frankenstein. It's just, what's his first name? Which, again, we know what his name is, or we know what his name is. We haven't given that up in the actual story yet, but we will get there.
Yeah, I think that it has a play on, so you have Frankenstein monster, or whatever. And you had a movie, The Bride, Frankenstein's Bride, or something like that.
Bride of Frankenstein, yeah.
So now
sequel.
So now it pushes the name on him. Now people just call him Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm.
Just like I'm a Jason fan. Growing up, definitely too young to watch the first couple. So I probably came in. I definitely saw Freddy vs. Jason, but I'm pretty sure I seen one before that, and it's Jason. Now, maybe what I seen wasn't probably Jason, but spoiler alert, it probably was Tommy. But before that, the original movie wasn't Jason at all. It was his mother.
Yeah, Mrs. Voorhees.
So that whole object, like, is it a Jason movie, or is it Friday the 13th or a Voorhees movie? Because in I think 3 or 4 of the movies, it's not even Jason. It's the guy who is traumatized by Jason.
Yeah, those movies get very convoluted, but yeah, no.
Yeah, so they're the same idea as Frankenstein. People just run with it. Even though,
I mean, Frankenstein as that's sort of what attracted us to using adapting Frankenstein into this story, was that he has a very Batman quality to him. You can kind of put him anywhere and it still feels like Frankenstein. It still works. He's Frankenstein if you put him in the future. He's Frankenstein if you put him in space. He's Frankenstein if you put him with Alvin and the Chipmunks. It still works. It's all Frankenstein.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's all I got for today. Was my last segment. It's called Digging in the Crates, which is another double-meaning term. In comics, you were digging on crates, getting old Watchmen comic books or whatnot. And also on music, trying to get old vinyls or CDs, on that 2000 rock era. So I've been digging to the crates of this episode to find out something that people take home from this whole segment. So going back, so if you did, so if you did major in music or whatever, in school, and graduated, what would you done with it?
Ooh, I mean, I probably would have pursued saxophone to its logical conclusion, which would have been making jazz albums, getting gigs at like after dark clubs and stuff like that. But also, trying to play guitar, trying to get in a band. I probably would have. That's kind of probably the direction I would have gone in with that. Yeah, I liked being in big ensembles, but I would have I wouldn't have wanted to go into that big long term. That would have been, I still have nightmares about not knowing my sheet music and marching band and just like the kind of the stress that came along with that. I'm pushing 31, and it's still, I wake up in cold sweats, just like, oh God, I gotta get to the field. I gotta get to marching practice.
Yeah, I avoided all that because I played sports, so I didn't have to do marching band, so most of my stuff was concert. And I've been doing concerts since 4th grade because over here, I did 2 different schools. In one school, we did violin, these string instruments. So I did that, and then went to another school, and they had us doing recorders, which is stupid. So we had recorders. But the violin stuff, during that as 4th grade, I wasn't, scared or anything. So when I got middle school, high school, concerts was nothing. But with your screenwriting, what series of yours would you turn into a movie or a show?
What series would I turn into a movie or a show?
And who would you pitch it to?
I think Mechatron would make a great like Netflix original, like in the vein of like Voltron or She-Ra or something like that as a TV show. That would be that's my gut instinct, but yeah, I don't know. I Frankenstein, I think Frankenstein movies, as great as they are, always sort of have a very campy quality to them. So I'm not sure I would love Frankenstein the Unconquered as like a film or as a TV show. That one feels more like a comic to me. Needs to live in that space. So yeah, like Mechatron as a kids show, I think would be the most natural fit.
Okay. All right, you got anything to tell the people before we exit out?
Yeah, depending on when this airs, please back the book. Get yourself a copy of Mechatron Vol.1. It's a great story. If the Kickstarter isn't up still, you go to my website, wellsthompson.com. It's just my name. You can either sign up for my newsletter, or when the book comes up, when the book goes out, I will put a link to buy it directly. So you can buy it directly from the website. Shouldn't be too much of a problem.
Okay. And where can they follow you at?
I always refer people to the newsletter, because that is, again, the most reliable place. But if it has to be social media, currently I'm most active on Twitter, at Wells Thomp. Again, my name, just minus the last 3 letters.
All right. And that newsletter was comics, cats, and cocktails, right? Cats, comics, and cocktails.
No, it's comics, then cats, then cocktails. Comics, cats, and cocktails. Yeah.
All
comics are always first.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on. It's been fun.
Absolutely. It's been a great time.